Hey everyone, John Henry here, slingshotfutures.com. Today we're going to be talking about the marijuana stock craze. Now, when it comes to pot stocks as a whole, there's been a pretty big roller coaster. There's a lot of movement back and forth, and generally some of the bigger names have been on the list of movers for a while now. Now, one of the big things, especially in the US, that we're seeing is more and more states are legalizing complete recreational marijuana, as well as full countries, like Canada more recently legalizing it across the board. So now with less than half of the country of the US still maintaining an illegal stance on it, this is beginning to create a very interesting type of potential diversification for a portfolio. Now, in terms of recreational states, you've got things like Alaska, California, Colorado, Maine, Massachusetts, Michigan, Nevada, Oregon, Vermont, Michigan, Washington State, and Washington, D.C. all coming in on that list, with more and more and more going full recreational, and a lot of states have it as legal for medical use. So again, less than half of the U.S. now is still standing with the illegal mentality. So because of that, it does, again, create a very interesting potential diversification or an investment avenue, but we have to play it a little bit safe. This is a very early on type of industry, and although it may not feel like it, a lot of these have been around for a while, there are still states that view it as illegal. And until it's fully adopted as recreational use, basically kind of viewed as a cigarette at that point, we need to approach this with some caution, right? Now, a lot of things can happen when you have a fringe market or something that's relatively new, and you'll eventually see the ones that start outshining the others, right? Kind of think of Amazon during the .com era when Amazon was brand new and selling books. Nobody knew that it was going to be a $1,700 company as it is now today. But that said, we're looking at the same type of potential when we're talking about the marijuana stocks. And it might be a stock that's not even out yet. It might not even be available or publicly traded yet that ends up being that shining gem in the rough, if you will. But there are a lot of big popular ones. Kronos Group, C-R-O-N, is a big one that pops up very frequently, and the nice thing is it's relatively cheap. This is a daily chart of Kron that is showing you, around the $10 mark or so, which is pretty okay. It's relatively newer. It started in 2017, earlier 2017. But for the most part, it's still relatively cheap. In the mindset of long-term, right? Now, again, cheap is variable because Kron might be the company that blows up and goes all the way down to zero, and you see something like New Age Beverages in Bev be the one that ends up being the shining example. You never know, right? That's the thing when you're dealing with fringe markets like this. You have to play it cautiously. So again, some of the popular ones, New Age Beverages, which we're looking at right now. We also have CGC, Canopy Growth Group. That's a $30 stock, recently off of the highs of almost $60. We also have ACB, which is a recent filing into the New York Stock Exchange, but this used to be ACBFF. It was a pink sheet not too long ago, trading around the $5 mark. APHA, A-P-H-A, is another one that recently just listed on the New York Stock Exchange. Previously was another pink, but again, another $5 stock. Tilray, which is one that probably a lot of people have heard of because of this run that you're looking at on the chart. It went from $20 to $300, and now it's resting at around the $100 mark. This is why you need to be so safe when you're looking at this type of fringe investment. This is more along the lines of something that you would want to consider looking at potential diversification of a specific amount of money. Now, again, I have to preface this, and that's why we have the picture in the beginning of every video that we do. I'm not a financial advisor, all right? I can't tell you what to do with your money. I'm just a dude who thinks these things are kind of fun, and I love stocks and trading in general. So keep that, in mind when we're talking about this. It's not financial advice. I'm not telling you to go out and sell your house and buy a boatload of pot. What I'm saying is these are potential avenues to, consider if you're looking for diversification into this sector. So what are kind of the main idea? Well, because we're still early on, and I mean literally less than half the country still views it as illegal, but a good chunk of states still have it as illegal. This is a consideration of a fringe type investment, kind of like crypto. When you're investing in Bitcoin, you don't know if it's going to go to 100 million or if it's going to go to zero, so you don't put a boatload of cash into it. You diversify small, right? You dollar cost average in small amounts of money. The same thing goes with this. You're looking at diversifying in and picking, maybe your favorite 5 or top 10 stocks and research them. Understand the backbone of what they do, right? Is marijuana just something that was recently introduced, more like New Age Beverages? They were talking about doing that with Coca-Cola. Or is it something that is their sole focus, right? That's all they do. Then, go a little bit further. Do their books look good? And again, keep in mind that it's still a relatively new industry, so there can be some factors that, although in normal circumstance may be a red flag, in this, you can't ever be too sure. Pick your favorite ones, though, and then diversify, right? Say, okay, well, I want to invest in the pot sector, right? I don't know if they have their own sector yet, but they will, more likely, sooner than later, and diversify and say, okay, you know what? I want to invest $10,000, right, or 10K into marijuana stocks. And from here, don't just go full bore and say, all right, I'm putting it all on Cron, right? You don't want to do that. This isn't a casino, right? We need to actually look at this and think, okay, we need to diversify to better average our way into this sector. So instead, we split this up into tens and say, I'm going to put 1,000 here, 1,000 here, 1,000 here, 1,000 here. You get the idea. And you're just diversifying out so that in the event that one of them doesn't work out, or maybe multiple of them don't work out, you still are diversified enough into others where that doesn't make that big of a difference. So what you're looking at then is diversifying out into these separate companies with little bits and pieces. And as time goes on, maybe if you have a job or you have an income that comes in and you want to invest with a dollar cost average mentality, you can say, okay, you know what? I just got paid. I'm going to take 5% of my check and I'm going to put it into these, right? And just kind of work your way down. This paycheck, you get this one. This paycheck, you get that one. You just kind of average in slowly over time to allow you to do it with money that isn't going to make a difference, right? It's money that you maybe skip out of McDonald's for a day. You buy a couple shares of this, you get the idea. But it's a way that you can get into an investment avenue that is otherwise very risky. It's brand new, essentially, in this mindset, and half the country still thinks it's illegal, or less than half now. So because of that, don't sell the house and throw it all onto this. It's something that is a potential investment avenue to diversify your already existing portfolio into a fringe type of market circumstance that could end up exploding and going absolutely crazy, or it could end up exploding and going all the way back to zero. This is why you do it with risk-off capital. It's money that you don't care. Well, I mean, everybody cares about the money, but it's money that you care less about than your other investments. That's why you're doing it with smaller amounts of money. There's nothing wrong with investing in fringe markets like this, or like Bitcoin when it was fresh, or anything else that starts kind of picking up steam. There's nothing wrong with investing in those types of things, but the big thing you have to keep in mind is your risk. You are investing in a very risky type of industry, and it could go away tomorrow. Probably not, obviously, but it's something you have to keep in mind. It has to be money that you're okay losing. So that's just kind of doing an overview and what to expect and kind of what we're looking at in the overall pot industry. As we can see from across the board here, all of the major ones are generally down off of their highs by about, 50 to 100%. Not 100%, 50, 25 to 50, some 60, 70% of the way off the highs. So if we're looking at Kronos Group as an example, seems like there's a pretty strong line in the sand around that $9 mark. Buyers want to try to keep it above it, sellers try to keep it below it. So Kronos Group at around that $9 mark is an area of interest. If we look at something like CGC, a little bit more expensive, but here again we have another area that is standing out pretty nicely. It was going to be right around there, and you can see the response there was very aggressively bullish. Now we're trying to grind our way through that. This is where you have to look at this and say, is this going to be a successful downside breakout, or is this going to be a failure move and it comes popping right back up? Right, so these are the types of things that you want to consider when you're trying to pick your favorite company, if you will. And you also want to look at the books and look internally. Maybe if one of these companies is close to you, even visiting their headquarters and seeing what they're all about and kind of getting a walkthrough, or just doing a little bit of due diligence like you would on anything else going forward, and really just kind of looking at a way to diversify the portfolio. Not a bad idea, especially in a market like this that could go absolutely crazy. You never know. We might have another one of those Tilrays that go from $30 all the way up to $400 or $300. Well, it would be pretty nice to ride that wave a little bit with some risk capital. So that's just an overview of the marijuana stock craze. As more and more states are legalizing it and becoming completely fully recreational, we're seeing countries completely legalizing it. It's definitely something that should be on your radar if it's not already, and something to potentially consider. That's going to do it for this one. I hope you found it useful, interesting, entertaining, maybe a little bit of something to add to your tool belt as we go forward into the end of the year or into the new year. But aside from that, as always, make sure to throw a thumbs up on the video, show us that you like the content, click subscribe so you don't miss any of the videos that come out, and to make sure that you don't miss any of the videos, click the notification bell icon to the right of that subscribe button so you're notified every time they come out so you never miss a beat. That's going to do it for this one. I hope you had a fantastic trading day today, and we'll see you in the next one. Thanks.